guys are so funny. You're trying to get me to do this stupid shit. And
she just whispered, "I'm a bad bitch," for anyone who didn't hear. Stop. 420.
I'm lit at Disney.
And the kids asleep in the bath.
There we go. A ball sack station.
That's what a business owner looks like. Hi, everybody.
It's very loud.
I know. I don't know why that one's making a ton of noise.
What did you do to it?
I didn't do anything to it. I did clean it off earlier, and I had to relocate a spider.
Did do stuff to it.
All I did was
And
wipe
you said
up
you didn't
spider
do
webs.
anything.
Sorry.
Well, maybe the spider webs were what was holding it together.
Is that why it's making noise?
So now if I move,
not structurally there's no integrity anymore.
Which wouldn't surprise me because everything here in New Zealand's made via spider webs.
Yeah, 100%. It's very fragile up in here. This is something we've been having to deal with.
Yeah.
But hi, everybody.
But speaking of fragility, we're going to talk about
adolescence and the reaction that adolescence is getting.
Yeah, male fragility.
Male fragility.
I set you up with that.
Yeah. Oh my god.
He's gonna attack that fly. Anyway, if this is your first time with us,
holy shit.
We are Tattoo Homewreckers. My name is Lou. This is my best friend Callista, and we talk about tattoos, life, and everything in between.
We sure do.
We don't talk about tattoos a whole lot, honestly, unless people have questions. But we're hoping to get some of our new Kiwi friends who are tattoo artists on here so we can talk about the differences in the States versus in New Zealand. So.
Oh my gosh. So stay tuned for that. But for right now, we're going to be talking about male fragility, but more importantly, the show Adolescence. So if you have not seen Adolescence, we highly recommend that you go and watch it. I think it's a must watch for everyone.
Yeah.
But if you're a parent, you absolutely need to watch it. That's like
I think it's like everyone needs to watch it because at the end of the day, everyone is responsible for what is going on with young boys that is then rippling into the effect of young girls.
Absolutely.
And anyone who does not fit into this bullshit idea of masculinity.
Yes, 100%. Well, surprise, surprise. We're talking about the patriarchy and how fucked up it is again. You need to watch it. It's a great show. So if you don't want spoilers, do not listen to this episode because we're just going to be talking about everything.
Well, also, to be fair, there's not really spoilers. The entire plot is laid out within the first 5 minutes. And if you've been on the internet for the last 2 weeks or so, you know what happens. But yeah, so we're just going to talk about like our side of it and also my new favorite segment, which is stupid reviews from the internet.
Yes, 1-star reviews. So the way we want to do it is we want to talk about our favorite parts of it. And then we want to talk about how the manosphere is reacting to it because they were reacting very poorly to it. And then we'll get into those 1-star reviews because I thought it'd be fun to delve into what these individuals think about it, not just like big names. So what we liked about it, I guess I can kick us off if you want. First of all, artistically, we'll start easy and ease into it. Artistically, fucking gorgeous show. I didn't realize that everything was shot in one take until Caboose had pointed it out. I was like, there's no way. And then we were watching and we were looking, we're like, oh shit, they still haven't cut. Yeah. So every single episode is like that. One fucking take. Really great.
And I learned about why, and it's because Stephen Graham, one of the creators of it, he plays the dad. He plays Jamie's dad. He was talking about how there is no cut in life. You can't like cut anything out of it. It just unfolds how it unfolds. And so it really does get that sense of like everything just because the way they did it, everything literally just flows. And obviously you can create that effect with the cuts, but it definitely does add to this very much like, no, life is just unfolding in front of you the same way the show does.
Yes. And like, I think this might be like ego driven, but artistically, I love when people like take a challenge on like that and fucking crush it. Like, oh my God, it's so fucking good. It's so good that you don't even know that it's all in one take.
Yeah.
It's so smooth. It's almost effortless, and that's how you know it was hard to do. So artistically, I thought it was fucking stunning. But I really enjoyed every single little like nuance that I feel like these people, I've scrolled through some of these 1-star reviews, completely missed. You can see the internet and the way they respond. Again, you have to watch it if you haven't already. But one of the things that comes to mind is the conversation of the entire family excluding Jamie in the dad's van and how the mother is emotionally regulating everyone in that scenario. And I feel like to the untrained eye, it looks like a simple, fun family conversation.
Yeah.
And you can't pick up the fact that mom is trying to make sure that dad feels stable and that daughter feels stable, and then trying to lift up the mood so that way they can get essentially the day back, is what they were saying.
Which is something that they got in couples therapy.
Yeah.
And of course, so before that, the van scene even, she's like reminding him like, hey, we're facing problems together. Like, let's do this. And is encouraging him in what can be kind of seen as like a childlike manner when she's like, yeah, that is what the therapist said. We are getting the day back. Because again, she has to regulate him on top of regulating herself.
Yeah. And something that I think that like I saw a lot of people miss as far as like talking about that particular scene is when they come home after the dad has an absolute like, I wouldn't say mental breakdown, but you know, he just like blows his top off. Like it all becomes too much. There's this whole scene where he buys paint, which we were like, oh, don't do that to your van. That's not gonna... His van was spray painted. I think it was nonce is what it said.
Yeah.
Fun vocab word that I got to learn. And he bought blue paint because one of these like red pill, like young teenage boys was working at the department store and told him like, hey, just letting you know, like, I believe him. I don't think he did it. And like the dad knows that Jamie did it because he saw the video of him stabbing this girl. And he's like, it must be all fake. Like, if you're going to, like, fake a death like that, at least make it make sense. And I just want to let you know that if you crowdsource, like, get him a really good lawyer. If you crowdsource, there's a lot of us that would go, like, and support him. And he just, like, loses it. Starts throwing the paint on his van. And then while he's doing that, mom and daughter are both so shocked. Being like, what the fuck is going on? And they have no choice but to be quiet in that moment because I feel like, as a woman, we've all experienced this before, where like male rage comes out and you are just doing your best to make sure that it isn't pointed towards you.
To be fair, I think it's all rage because I didn't grow up with an angry dad in my house, but I did grow up with an angry person.
Yeah.
And when she was raging out, like it was definitely like you try to be as quiet as possible so you can become invisible. So I think it just, you know, just to be fair on the like, it's all rage. And that's like one of those things that you learn. I can't say like for boys, but like as like growing up as someone who was reared as a woman, like that's what I learned as a small girl was like, make sure you hide.
Right. Yeah. Because it's just a lot, you know, it's confusing. It's terrifying. And then she gets in the house after they drive home with the van just, you know, soaking wet with paint. And there's this moment where the daughter goes upstairs, dad goes upstairs. She's alone for like maybe 30 seconds and she is just crying and she has to pull herself together. She lets a sob out and then instantly pulls herself together and goes upstairs and talks to the dad to try to figure this shit out. And I feel like that is also a really good, a really important scene that people missed because she has to regulate everyone else's feelings in that van. But when it comes to her own feelings, she cannot have anybody else regulate those for her because it's not acceptable at that point.
I'm going to state as someone that's married to a man, that one hit hella hard. Where I was like, yeah, I understand that because me crying like breaks the entire thing. Like the entire day is ruined if I look sad. And as somebody who, like we've talked about this in the past, like who ends up being like the mother to a group of people, if I am dysregulated at all, the entire group falls apart.
Yeah. And like, it's completely unfair, right? And that's also the patriarchy at work. There's songs written about it. It's a whole thing where repeating occurring event that happens in a lot of women's lives where it's like, yeah, I can't depend on anybody else to help regulate me. I have to be the person to regulate me.
It's not even that you can't depend. It's that no one can see you dysregulated unless you are prepared to do the work for them as well. So like if I'm upset, I then have to go back and make sure that anyone who saw me upset is okay because they saw me upset.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, if we'll use Caboose for instance, like if he gets shitty or snappy, he doesn't come back and like try to make sure like, hey, my bad, like this is what's happening.
Totally.
because like as a man, he has not been taught to even notice that like what he does has an effect on other people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's something that like we discuss a lot in our house, is how much like he will like feel some kind of way and not know he feels that way, but also how much that doesn't, like, he can't see that other people can see that.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because like little boys are taught to not recognize their feelings. So if you can't recognize that feeling in yourself, how are you going to know that that feeling then affects other people?
Absolutely.
But are you ever going to ask me what my favorite part was?
Yeah, I was just about to get to that because I was running out of topics. But what's your favorite part of?
My favorite part was a really like quick little like scene. So obviously by now, if you're this far and you've seen the show, you know what it's about. But when Jamie's dad, who I can't remember his name now, when Jamie's dad's reading his birthday cards.
Oh, right.
And this is before the paint incident, before the van incident, but he wakes up that morning. He is trying to connect with his wife. So, of course, he's trying to get physical because that kind of highlights the idea that, like, most men do not know how to connect with their, like, wives or with other people that is not in a physical way.
Yeah.
So he's, like, trying to connect with her, and she's like, hey, I'm cooking right now. Can't. But open your birthday cards. And when he opens his birthday card, he gets one from his dad. And he brings up the fact that his dad's wife is the one that signed it.
Yep.
And I think that it, like, for me, that was one of those really highlighting moments because as like a daughter of men whose wives signed their cards for them, and then as a wife, I was always irate with the fact that, like, when my dad would only just put his name on a card, but my mom's the one that, like, filled the whole thing out, or, like, when he got married and his new wife did that same thing, and he just did the bare minimum of signing his name, but I know he didn't pick out the card. I know that, like, none of the actual, like, love and attention and affection came from him.
Yep.
And in the show, when he points out the fact that he's like, of course, written by, I think her name was Ruth. I don't remember.
Something like that.
That he's like, of course, written by her. I thought it highlighted this idea that, like, here this man thinks he's doing better than his father did because he's like, oh, you know, I don't harm my child physically, but he's not there for his kid in the same way that his father is not there for him. His father couldn't even take the time to sign a birthday card or just honestly to go pick one out, like to have that and then to write a personalized note.
Yep.
And that's something that I've seen perpetuated so much that, like, even when Caboose and I got married and a couple years ago, I was like, hey, dude, I'm not doing cards anymore. I'm not. Like, if you want to do cards for people, because, like, that's something that women take on, is that, like, when we got married, I was then in charge of getting cards for his family's birthdays and for keeping those connections. And he wouldn't. The most he would do is, like, write maybe happy birthday and sign his name. And that was like pulling teeth. And again, I have a good husband. I have a good man. And he loves these people and cares about them. But he, too, gets saddened when somebody doesn't apply that same effort. And so I thought it really highlighted the fact that this man obviously wanted, like, recognition and connection with or from his father and a relationship with his father, but then perpetuated that same thing and probably would have been, like many men I know, unaware that they're even perpetuating the same cycle. And I think, like, for me, it was one of those tiny little, like, one-line parts of the movie or of the show that really highlighted the absolute blindness that men have around this. And obviously these men don't, because they wrote it into the script, but it was something that, like I said, I've discussed it at lengths before with my husband and even with my dad about how, like, no, that's not nice. But then for them to be like, this is a big enough deal to put it into this program, I thought was great.
Absolutely. I think I'm not sure how to word it, but it's those subtleties of the show of, like, oh my God, like, we've lived through these things and have, like, all been through these things, but they're for some reason unspoken and not, like, actually overtly out on display, especially in, like, Hollywood or, you know, any kind of, like, entertainment format, which is why this show is so important to watch. It's really important to me. It's important to the people who created it. It's important to everybody. It should be important to everybody. Those tiny moments. And I think that's why a lot of people missed those things.
Yeah.
When you said, like, yeah, men aren't aware of how blind they are to doing those things, that's where I'm like, okay, so these are the things that you guys missed throughout this entire show. I also really loved, again, just outwardly using the word manosphere and talking about these, like, incel groups and what the 80-20 rule was. That, to me, was, like, groundbreaking. It was so refreshing to hear these words and these, like, theories or whatever you want to fucking call them, being so prominent in the show, such a big theme. It was kind of like how the Barbie movie was a really big deal to us because they had overtly said the word patriarchy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, like, that had never been, like, for some reason, it's, like, such a taboo thing because people are going to get mad. But that's why we need to have more, like, shows and entertainment and just storytelling that highlights what happens.
Well, I feel like that's more rooted in reality. So it is that case of, like, this is what the world looks like. And a lot of people don't like to be there. It's why, like, when they did shows during COVID and showed people in masks and showed, like, what it was like during COVID, a lot of those shows bombed because people didn't want the reality of it. And I think that it's important because it facilitates conversations like this one, like many of them that are happening online, is that it facilitates this ability to be like, dude, this is real, though. Like, we know people that watch this type of bullshit and don't know it's bullshit. Again, real life examples. I know what it's like to, like, be sobbing and then have to pull yourself together because no one else around can know how heartbroken or devastated you are. Because if they see it, how are you ever going to get them back on, like, you know, into a good place? If they see you broken, how are you going to help them? Yeah. Because they cannot handle the weight of, like, a woman's tears or a mother's tears or somebody that they've decided is basically their mother figure. They can't handle that weight. So the amount of, like, scenes that really resonated where it's like, yeah, I know what it's like. I said, I grew up with an angry person in my household. I know what it's like to be in that car and just be silent. And like when the daughter was just silently sobbing, I was like, yeah, I've done that. Like, I know what that's like. Now, unfortunately for me, I didn't grow up with, like, you know, like, the mother in that is there to, like, help the daughter. And I didn't have that. Totally. I just was, like, alone in those feelings, which is probably why I grew up to be the person that does that for others. Yeah. But it is, like, all of those little subtleties are the reality for so many people. Because, like, the, again, Stephen Graham, the creator of it, like, specifically chose, like, both the parents were, like, hardworking and had good jobs, and their son was not abused, like, physically. He was not, you know, sexually assaulted. It wasn't in this case in which you could necessarily blame the parents, but it was just a reality of, like, oh, yeah, teenagers, and we've heard this for ages, which is like, oh, yeah, teenagers are just in their rooms. And it's like, but that's kind of the problem, is they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be self-isolating. Like, and this really showed and highlighted that. Yeah, and it highlighted, well, the isolation and also the need for, like, positive male figures. And so when you weren't being shown a positive, I wouldn't say a positive male figure, because, again, they chose, like, adults who had their shit together, right? Dad's a business owner and he is busy all the time for sure. But, like, it's not the fact that he's busy all the time. It's the fact that he is not having emotional conversations. And one of my favorite takes from someone on social media had said that, like, oftentimes it is seen as, like, a women's trait to talk about your emotions. And unfortunately, when women, like mothers, are the only ones having emotional conversations, it becomes even easier for younger men to write that off, because why would they want to do that if they're not having that sort of conversation with their fathers? And so when they don't have conversations with their fathers and they're stuck in silence, which you can see all throughout the show, the dad, like, has a phone call with Jamie and he's quiet pretty much the entire time. And he's just not showing up for his son. His son also asks him to be his, like, appointed adult or something in the first episode. Also quiet. Not really having, again, these emotional conversations of, like, how are you feeling? It's going to be okay. We'll get through this. He's just also in shock. Again, kind of expecting his son to regulate him for himself.
And so when your son is isolated and the only...
Wait, can we pause on that real
Yes,
fast? The
for sure.
regulation. And if you're like, oh, well, obviously, like, he would be in shock because he's been thrown in this situation, you can see the difference there that, like, the mother in those moments does not lean on her daughter to regulate her, but he does lean on his son to regulate him. He breaks down in front of his son.
Yep.
And though, yes, that's okay to, like, show your children emotions, there is a stark difference in the way in which, like, he is not able to help regulate his son. He can't even regulate it himself. And it shows that, like, generational trauma around not having conversations around emotions and men being suppressed from ever feeling them to their full ability and then being able to name them, that he isn't able to even understand what's happening to him, which is why he then self-isolates within himself and just leaves his child there, who is a child. So yes, Jamie's character did something absolutely horrible.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But he is a child, which means in that moment, you as an adult, and I'm speaking not as someone who is, you know, has human babies, but as an adult in that situation, you have to put your feelings aside and help a child rather than focusing just on yourself.
Absolutely.
And even if you don't have children, but say you're a teacher, you've been a babysitter, you've ever been around young people, you know that's the case. And you see it with the therapist. Like, she absolutely in those moments says, let me remove myself from the situation for 2 seconds, make sure that he is handled, like hands Jamie off to another adult, and then goes and regulates herself and comes back. And instead, the father has a breakdown in front of Jamie, which then just facilitates this distance between them. Because there is a scene in which Jamie discusses how he was, like, going to play football and didn't do well, and then his dad couldn't even look at him. And he grows angry at the fact that the therapist does not correct him and say, no, that can't be true. And then at the end of the program, you do have Jamie's dad, because I can't remember this dude's name, admitting that he couldn't even look at his own son. So when he is in deep emotion, he can't even connect with another human being, which I think is a huge part of, like, the issue with toxic masculinity and what we teach masculinity to be, which is when I'm in a deep emotional state, like, I'm ashamed of my son because I know all these other men are judging me. Rather than connecting with your child, rather than being, like, in your own head, understanding that, like, honestly, fuck what anyone else thinks of your kid, that doesn't matter. Or just even in that moment, putting your own shit aside to be there for your child.
100%.
Just being like, hey, in this moment, my kid needs some fucking reassurance. So I can deal with the shame of these dads thinking that, like, my kid's a loser because he's not the best at this sport. I can handle that and be uncomfortable and be here to reassure my child and then deal with my own shit later.
And, well, that's the thing. It requires a lot of emotional intelligence in order to put your shit aside and also think, like, okay, so he's bad at the sport, but, like, it's your job as a parent to still, like, I don't know, be there for your kid and encourage that. Like, if your kid is genuinely having fun, then...
Which, to be fair, his kid wasn't. Jamie says that. And he
wasn't
even later
it.
states that he wanted him to get into sports to toughen him up. So again, this idea that, like, men have to be tough and you need to make them tough instead of just sitting with your child. It's that, you know, internet meme of, like, men will do anything except for go to therapy. So it's like, you would rather put your child in physical harm in a sport that he is not prepared for than just have a conversation with him.
Totally.
That if he's into art, encourage him, sit down and draw with him. Like, it is about building that connection. And, like, one of my favorite things, I'll come off my soapbox in just 1 second. One of my favorite things I ever learned about parenting was that parenting is just watching this person unfold in front of you. So it is not about molding your child into who you think. It is not about getting them ready for this world. It is about the joy of watching your child become who they are going to become and encouraging that. And, like, I've taken that into all relationships in my life. It's how I feel about you, which is why that, like, years ago when, like, not when you did crazy shit, but like if one of my friends was doing something crazy, I would be like, oh my God, this is terrible. What if something bad happens? And then through learning that, I learned that like my job is just to witness you in life. It is to witness. It is to provide a guiding hand if you ask for it or if you need it. But otherwise, it is just to be here to see the person that you are going to become.
Absolutely. Every time you say witness you in that context, by the way, I always think of Mad Max. Witness me! I always think of Mad Max. But yeah, so I want to circle back really fast.
Sorry.
Just talking about isolation and there's no like male figure that is having these conversations. And sorry if you could hear our neighbors, but there's several times in the show where Jamie calls out for his dad. Several times where he's like, Dad, like just trying, like it's so sad because he's emotionally like reaching for him and cannot find him because his dad isn't showing up. And they mentioned in the show that Jamie was, locked up in his room and he wasn't getting into any trouble. And they thought that was fine because at least he wasn't getting into any trouble. But when you're in a vulnerable state and you don't have like, again, like male company or like a directive or any kind of direction from a male figure in your life, then you get into the internet where these men are promoting toxic masculinity and
to sell products
to make sure that at the end of the day, and I want to make this very clear, men like Andrew Tate don't care about other men. Men like Andrew Tate just want your money. They want to make sure that you're miserable so that way you keep feeding into their bullshit. So that way you keep paying for seminars.
I think the easiest way to explain this is the same way the beauty industry
absolutely
makes women hate themselves.
Yes.
So that way they can sell them products. The manosphere makes men hate themselves.
Yes.
And also hate women, but makes them hate themselves. So they hate everything in them that is sweet and kind and human. And the same way that the beauty industry makes us hate our wrinkles, our rolls, our cellulite, everything that makes us human.
Yep.
It's designed to get you to buy products.
Yeah.
If that is it.
Keep you in a certain amount of pain or a certain amount of like desperation, then you'll keep buying the product, obviously.
If I convince you that you have to be like a huge dude to be a dude that's like attractive, that you have to have tons of muscle mass on you, then I can sell you a lot of products that will promise you muscle mass.
Yeah.
You've just increased my profits for protein.
Yeah.
So it is just a way to sell you products. That's all it is. And when the issue is that we think of it as this like overall cultural thing because it's become something cultural, but that's the same way that in the 90s we had the like, don't get me wrong, I understand this is problematic, the Dove, like your body is the way it is, like campaign of like trying to get people to accept their bodies, which wasn't necessarily that, it was just that they could then like
sell you
soap. But it's still this idea of like, we're going to keep selling you products. So if we keep your self-esteem so low and we create a problem for you, and we keep you isolated, because again, no matter how much you tell a woman she's gorgeous, she's not going to believe you unless she's done the work on herself. Because it's always out there. So I just had to like throw that in because I think that people tend to think of it as just a like sociological problem and not that it is a means to advertise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's huge. And I'm glad that you brought that up because that made me realize too, it's like classic triangulation as well. They're making sure that like they will never be the problem because women are the problem, right? Tricking young boys and men into believing that you have to trick a woman in order to be with her, which is just like foul and disgusting. But,
the counter to that is it's the same as tricking women into the idea that a man will never be attracted to you if you are not this weight, if you are not this amount of skinny, if you are not wearing high heels, if you are not this level of feminine, a man's never going to be with you.
Right.
And so just like that's designed to get you to hate yourself, so that way you will then perform and you will purchase, this is the same thing.
Absolutely. And like, no wonder there's a male loneliness epidemic, right? Because in these like cultures, men don't even like each other, right? And then on top of that, they don't like women. So at that point, what are you left with? You're left with loneliness. And that's a vulnerable state to be in, because at that point, like, you are susceptible to anything.
Well, I think that's where, like, this problem really got exacerbated, is that, like, women started being like, fuck you, dude. I like myself.
For sure.
And I'm not saying fuck you, dude, to men. I'm saying fuck you to the advertisers that try to convince us that we hated ourselves. And so as we started to be like, no, I love me. I love, like, I'm fine with my body, and, like, advocating for loving other women.
For sure.
So we weren't going to hate on women that look different from us, that were different.
That made different choices.
Yes, that made different choices, that we weren't going to be like, hey, we have to hate this specific body type because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But as women started working against that and working together, then men still were being fed that same idea of, like, this is what masculinity is, which is why when you talk to women, like, that 80-20 problem, I say problem in quotations because it's made up bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, let me get it right. The 80-20 marketing ploy.
There we go.
Is that, what is it?
80% of women are only attracted to 20% of men. So
But-
you have to trick women into being with you.
But then when you ask women about, like, hey, is it important? Are looks important? They're like, I mean, not any more important than a personality. Like, the personality is way better.
Absolutely.
And
When
you-
asked if they pick, like, a hot guy who is mediocre or a mediocre dude who is amazing to you, like, 9 times out of 10,
I'm going to take the dude with the personality.
I'm going to take the dude who's nice to me, who sees me as a human being.
Well, I
Doesn't
also
see me as something to be conquered or to be had.
beyond the simplicity of nice to me, because I
Yeah.
do think that's the bare minimum.
Sure.
And I think that's how your
being
generation,
seen as human is the bare minimum.
Your
for sure.
generation's been taught that that's a nice guy as he sees you as a human being. Whereas, like, and it could also be an age thing for me, is that I'm like, no, I want someone who's, like, comfortable in themselves.
Yeah, totally.
And that concept of, like, 80% of women are only attracted to the top 20%. That's not true.
No.
When you look at all your friends and look at their relationships, and you're like, that's just two normal people loving each other.
Absolutely.
So when you look around, you don't see that. But if I sell you this idea the same way that I'm going to sell you that, hey, honey, you can't have any stretch marks because he's not going to want to have sex with you. But then you talk to the amount of, like, women who are getting laid plenty, covered in stretch marks, who, when you ask a man, like, oh, is that a big deal to you? Like, do you care that, like Caboose and I have this conversation? Like, I'm aging, you're aging. Do you find me less attractive now because I'm almost 40? And he's like, no, I think you're hot. He's like, I think you're better now than you were then. But that's how it works, is that advertisement gets into us, so we are convinced that, like, we are the problem. And that's the same thing that's happening with these young men.
Absolutely.
Is that they are convinced that they themselves are the problem. I think it is easy that we blame and say, oh, they don't like women because they think women's the problem. It's not actually that they think women are the problem. It's that they think they are the problem and there is no solution. So then if I tell you you have to be 6'5" in order to be seen as attractive, and you're never going to be 6'5" because you are 5'10", then you will inherently hate yourself.
Yeah.
The same way if I tell you you have to weigh $120 because that was the ideal weight when I was growing up, was 120 pounds, then I would hate myself and do anything I could to be that.
Yeah.
And that gives them control. So I don't actually think that it's that, like, men hate women. I think that, yes, there's a part of it. But I think that more than anything, men hate themselves.
Yeah.
And then the only thing they can do is punch down toward women.
Oh, God. 100%.
So, like, that's where it actually comes from, is a self-hatred, because the manosphere just creates a place in which they hate themselves so much, there is no solution. There is no way of them being like, hey, I can be like I can be desirable because I can work on emotions, because they've been brainwashed the same way that, like, I was, which is why I had an eating disorder, was that the only thing that will make me, like, feel good is if I achieve this goal of what my body's supposed to fucking look like.
When you say that too, like, if we think about it, and think about, like, again, we'll say this in, like, from, like, a women's perspective in the beauty industry. You can be, like, a bombshell right? Like classically beautiful. What Hollywood deems as beautiful, right? Like fucking 10% body
Hollywood
fat, long blonde
currently.
hair. Yeah, a snatched waist. You've got, I don't know, a great body. And I don't know, you'll look like Barbie, whatever your fucking idea of what Hollywood's top-notch beauty star is. How many of those women still hate themselves? And we think about, too, like, we'll flip it on the other end. I can't tell you how many dudes who are over 6 feet tall, who are a muscular build, and still are soulless because they fucking hate themselves. So even if you did have all the things, even if you did have the money, you did have the career, you did have the fucking body of your dreams, at the end of the day, it's really showing that, like, the self-hatred is so deeply rooted
but
that
human
it doesn't
beings
change anything.
aren't instinctually self-hating.
Yeah.
What's happening is that
well, we're taking, like, again, it's like the whole pill, right? That red pill is actually just a self-hating pill. You're just feeding that, and it's just growing and festering. And, like, again, like I said, it doesn't matter what you have at that point. If you don't get rid of that part of your diet, you're going to be poisoned.
But I think that's the beauty of this show, is that this show shows you how, like, as it's a whole society thing. So we can't just blame his parents.
Right.
It is all of society. It's the fact that we allow these people to have massive platforms because we do not create an environment in which little boys have an opportunity to play and to, like, have feelings. That, like, we do not express gratitude when we're being shown these things. And I don't mean we as women, I mean us as a society. Absolutely. Because, like, at the end of the day, this is not fixed by women. This is also not wholly fixed by men. Yes, at this stage, we need more men to speak up because men hear men in a way that they do not hear women. That's why he's constantly craving his dad to be the person that speaks to him. That's Caboose and I have had this conversation multiple times that, like, he cannot hear me. And even when I send him, like, topics that I'm like, oh, here, I know extensively about this, his ability to absorb that knowledge is massively different when it comes from a man, because that is part of the patriarchy, is that men listen to men more. And to be fair, women listen to men more too. Now it's a little bit better because we've worked on it, but we knew that based on the assumption that, oh, it's a doctor, must be a man. Oh, it's a lawyer, must be a man. Oh, it's a judge, must be a man. Because we were all fed the same patriarchal bullshit that if you are in power, you must be a dude. And so you're going to listen to men more because you are taught from the time you are little that they are more logical, that they are smarter, even though we know statistically based off of tests, like when you look at test scores, that boys are not actually smarter than girls.
Yeah. Also, I mean, the fun fact, you sent me this reel, when it comes to, like, elasticity, the female brain actually has a lot more points of time where your elasticity grows, a lot more opportunities, I should say, than men. I think, I forget exactly what the number is, but like on average, men have like one big, like, elasticity moment in their brain.
When you were first born.
Yeah.
Like up until about 3, and then it's also during puberty. And then women have it again during any sort of pregnancy. That's why you get mom brain, because the, like, neurons allow you to create completely different paths. And they also just dump a bunch of, like, information because you need to be able to take care of your child.
Yep.
But then on top of that, you then have, like, they're doing research now on, like, that possibly changing again when you're going through menopause. So that's why my brain is just different now and I forget shit.
There you go, because you're elastic.
Yeah, the elasticity changing.
But yeah, so, I mean, that's the thing. The patriarchy is harming everyone, and now we're seeing this get into media, mainstream media, which is great. Like, we want more conversations. I love it.
Yes.
I'm going to move on to one of the tweets that Muskrat replied to, and everyone's been talking about how upset he is at, you know, the show Adolescence. And it's, the original tweet is from, I don't know who the fuck this is, but he says that Netflix has a show called Adolescence that's about a British knife killer who stabbed a girl to death on a bus. Okay, we can tell you didn't watch it. And it's based on real life cases such as the Southport murderer. So guess what? They race swapped the actual killer from a black man / migrant to a white boy. Wait, let
me just add one more time. That's not the plot. So if you did watch it, that's not the plot.
Well, he clearly
and again,
didn't.
They stated that that's, like, they did not base this off any particular case, but indeed it was based off of a theme that the creators had seen about young boys stabbing young girls and trans children.
Yep, exactly. And so he basically said this is just summing it up to, this whole show is just anti-white propaganda. To which Elon Musk replied, wow, to it. So he didn't overtly agree with it, but everyone's like, yeah, he did, because he's, making sure that it's accessible to a broader audience. And they're trying to make it about race and not about what the actual problem is, which again, if you're going to destroy the manosphere, which these people heavily, benefit from being seen as like the macho man, the dude with the money, then if people actually wake up to it, that's why they're getting so scared. Thought that was fucking hilarious. The whole manosphere has been really upset. And again, they're just pushing it off as like, well, you guys just hate white men, so you guys are dumb. Which is fucking ridiculous and also no basis in reality. And again, we can tell that you didn't watch the fucking show because he didn't stab her on a bus, you weirdo.
Nope, but we are going to take a really quick break so we can swap out batteries, and then we will be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Captain Callista's Fish Sticks. Are you tired of fish sticks being made out of one type of fish, or worse yet, not knowing the fish your fish stick is made out of? Well, here at Captain Callista's, we offer our fish sticks in a multitude of fish flavors for your sophisticated palate. Our fish sticks include whale, seal, manatee, sea cucumber, sea turtle, and 100% white meat starfish. Visit your local grocery store and ask for Captain Callista's Fish Sticks today.
Now presenting Hedges Dirty Delights. Is your bush overgrown? Are your pots too tight? Suffering from limp stems? Sad leaves? Do you need a good edging? Here at Hedges Dirty Delights, we'll keep your soil moist and your stems erect. Our founder, President Hedge, spent 20 years learning the patented stem and hand technique. This technique guarantees your plants will be bursting with joy and new growth. Call 1-800-DIRTY-DELIGHTS to book your appointment today. Here we believe that a spade and a hoe is all you need. And lucky for you, we have both. Results are unbelievable.
Hedges Dirty Delights bears no responsibility in the probable event of pregnancy or general stickiness. Satisfaction is always guaranteed.
And we're back. Thank you to our sponsors for sponsoring this episode.
I.e. us.
AKA us. Okay, I want to go into, well, first of all, that whole claim that it's about anti-white people is fucking ridiculous. What the hell?
There was a fly on you. I just
getting the aggression out. Dude, God, they're so fucking comfortable with us. Yeah, what did you think about muskrats? Propping that opinion. It's so dumb. Like, at that point, what do you even say?
Like, at that point, like, honestly, it's just embarrassing.
Can't say I'm surprised.
Yeah.
It's so, like, outlandish that, like, it has, again, no basis in reality.
Your whole response is just wow, just to boost that, like, post.
Yeah.
And again, I'm really, like, I get really nervous, and I'm not, like, fucking anyone of importance on the internet. And I get really nervous about, like, saying things that could be inaccurate.
Totally.
So, like, but I mean, that's also what that is the entire manosphere is built off of inaccuracies.
Totally.
So, of course, he's going to prop up somebody's comment about it being about race.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me fucking started on that shit. But, like, of course he's going to prop up something that makes him feel better.
Yeah, about the whole situation. It's so ridiculous.
And, like, some fucking idiot that obviously didn't watch the program.
Yeah, A, you did not watch it, and B, again, so what you're saying is if it's not anti-white, then it's anti-black and anti-migrant. Like, I don't know. There's so much wrong with it. But anyways, I'm going to go on to a 1-star review that was left on Adolescence. Yes. The reason why I want to talk about this is because, again, there's a lot. We'll get into it.
You want to talk about it because there's a lot. I want to talk about it because I love 1-star reviews. They're one of my favorite things. Like, I absolutely want to be that person that's like, please only leave us 1-star reviews on our, like, shop. But Callie says no. So I'm like, ugh. Because I'm like, that'd be great.
I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think it'd be great if it's 1 star.
Well-
best fucking tattoo experience of my life. 1 star. Lou is a silly goose good time. 1 star. Love my tattoo.
We're aiming low. It's golf rules.
Yes.
All
Everything
right.
is golf rules.
The lower the score.
Yeah. Although I definitely play golf the other way, which is the most amount of hits wins, because
Exactly.
that's the only way that I win golf.
Well, that's how you do putt-putt, right? Okay. So someone says, Adolescence, a Netflix drama that promised so much but delivered so little. I'm not going to get into like all of it. I will kind of paraphrase through because all of these reviews are super fucking long. But this person basically had started with the pacing is off. It's painfully long. And it felt like it stretched out, kept waiting for something impactful to happen, but it never did. By the end, I was just wondering why I'd stuck around.
Wait, I'm so confused. Was the I think the only thing I could have done without is probably the most impactful like part of like I think it was the first episode where they showed the video of him like murdering Katie.
I don't know
like
how that
I was like, oh, that I would definitely say that's impactful. And as somebody who I don't like violence or even like fake violence in films,
It felt personal. It felt way too personal.
Yeah, and I understand that they definitely did that to get like that feeling, that visceral feeling of holy fucking shit, you're actually showing this.
Yeah.
But wow. I want to know, like, with stuff like that, I feel like that is a product of like the TikTok brain.
Yes, exactly.
What do you call it? Cocoa melon?
Cocoa melon for adults is.
I don't know what cocoa melon is, but you've referred to it a couple times.
Yeah, it's on YouTube Kids. It's for babies, right? So people are showing their babies cocoa melon, and there's studies saying that like this is a horrible program for your kids because it's very short, quick. Like it's essentially like the TikTok for babies.
But I think that that's the issue with stuff like this is, again, this is somebody who I'm sure, because they've left a ridiculously long review.
It's very long.
Is chronically online. So they are used to things being very like short little stints.
Totally.
Therefore, anything that is a longer, like the slow burns, don't like resonate. And again, it just makes me think that you don't watch English dramas, that you're like, I need action. Like I would, if I had to guess, I'd probably say this person was American.
That's a great guess. We'll see if they let on to being American or not. But
we just check the spelling.
One of the biggest frustrations for me was the amount of unresolved storylines and unanswered questions.
Okay, so they're American. They're just
for sure
American.
Confirmed.
That's it.
That's an American trait.
If you don't get a nice tight little bow,
At
we
the
didn't
end of
tie
things.
this up. We didn't tell you who the killer was. We didn't give
an
you
open
all
ending.
of that.
No, I love
that
an
is
open
the most
ending.
American thing. That's why I like Scream so much. I love the Scream trilogies because I love their like play on the like let's tie everything up in a nice little bow.
Totally.
And Caboose, when we first got together, would get so angry at like English programs because of that. Because we'd be watching stuff and then it's just like end. And he's like, okay, so when's the next season come out? I'm like, no, that's the series finale.
Yeah.
Like that's how it ends. It ends like with you wanting more.
Yeah.
And again, because like they said about this single shot of the program, life goes on.
Totally. And also, you don't always get closure. I think that's the biggest thing.
You don't get closure in anything.
100%.
If you've known someone that's died, I have a million questions still for my dad about his life.
Yeah.
And I've come to accept that, like, I will always have questions and will always want further closure. Closure's not a real fucking thing.
Closure is something that comes from you. It doesn't come from other people. It comes from literally a conversation with yourself.
Which is, you won't know.
Exactly. And that's life. I mean, Fleabag was one of my favorite programs ever. And again, open ending, but that's life for you. You don't know how the character is going on about their life. And there's something beautiful in that. But anyways.
So there's just lots of plot holes, apparently.
Yes. For instance, Jamie's best friend, who ran off in one of the most suspicious and dramatic moments of the show, was never really explored further. Was he guilty? Scared? Hiding something? We'll never know because the show didn't bother to give us any closure.
Because the show's not about him. And again, he's a kid. That's what kids do. Kids that are scared are gonna run.
Totally. And also, for me, what bothers me about this particular part of the review is the fact that I'm like, okay, so again, the point was completely missed. It's not about... The show is not about finding out who the killer is, because we know that we watched him stab someone.
This is not
This is not a who
done
did it. We know who. He's literally in prison. He's not in prison, but whatever.
I think that is why they show you. So there is no doubt in your brain. You're like, okay, so this is not
for sure killed her. Yeah.
Hey, who did this?
Yeah.
This is this is an exploratory series about what can create our children to do these things. And yes, his best friend gave him the knife. Therefore, it invites the conversation around his guilt. Around, why did you think that was okay? Why didn't you want to tell another adult? What's happening there? Is this person even guilty in this?
Yeah.
And, what goes beyond that? That, to me, was the point of having that conversation. But also because, kids run. Yeah. People run. That's
People do
what happens.
Stupid shit when they're scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Goodness gracious. Bless.
Isn't that hilarious? All right. Then there's Jamie himself. The whole premise hinges on whether or not he committed the murder. Yet the series left this intentionally ambiguous. They did not leave it intentionally ambiguous.
Bless
You literally
your heart.
watch it in the first episode. Please say.
Here's
Speak.
my theory.
Yes.
I think that TikTok addict, American over here.
Yes, 100%.
Was on their phone during it.
I think
that they missed the part where he's for sure
they
done
didn't see
it
that part.
because they're on their phone. Because this to me sounds like someone.
Did you miss that section of the episode?
Who was like, hey, I'm going to just play on my phone during this and missed it.
I think for me...
I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt and say they weren't paying attention because they were on their phone.
I think that's very nice. For me, I think this highlights a real lack in asking yourself what the author of something, what the creator of something wanted you to see. What is the message that they wanted to portray? Because in this...
How often do you think people are watching programs like that?
Well...
You said that like an actual fucking artist.
Oh, thanks.
Which is... What is this painting trying to say to you? What is this artist expressing to you?
Well, hold on. I got a point. I promise I got a point. Because in the day and age of social media, where we have reels and whatnot, I think the algorithm has trained a lot of people into thinking that the media that they see is supposed to be entertaining to them only, and not actually asking themselves what the creator wanted to portray.
And to be fair,
this is just bliss. It's willful ignorance.
It's the idea that, the media that you consume on your phone is tailored to you.
It's supposed to be for... Yeah, exactly. It's
so
for
everything is supposed to be tailored
it's supposed to... Yeah, it's supposed to serve you in a way, right? It's supposed to, make sure that, you get what you think you needed out of it, and when it doesn't deliver because you completely missed the message...
That's interesting that you say get what you needed, because I don't think people even think that. I
get
think
what
that
you wanted?
Just, I
wanted a murder mystery.
Yes. I think that, a lot of people... because of social media, operate in a place of, this is what I wanted, and if it's not what I wanted, then it must be bad, instead of being like, oh, interesting, that's not my, take on this.
One of my favorite Brittany Broski moments on her podcast was, it's not for you.
Dude,
not everything is for you. It's not fucking for you. Just scroll. Just fucking scroll. It's just...
Yeah, because she was making deviled eggs, and I don't like deviled eggs.
Yeah.
But that clip.
Well, what if I don't like eggs? Then move on. Then it's clearly not for you. Hilarious.
And then I was hooked.
Yeah.
That was the piece where I was like, oh, I really like Brittany Broski, and I watched that part, and I was like,
it's really funny,
amazing.
But it's I think
so good.
This is also we'll just say if they did watch the scene where it's literally CCTV cam footage of Jamie stabbing her.
No, this person is very obviously like the dude in the fucking store, the little red-pilled incel kid.
Yeah. Oh,
that makes him throw his paint because he breaks him.
Yeah, he breaks
that's it. Where he says, "Well, he's not guilty. It's obviously fake." It's dude, fake. Come on.
Because he had mentioned something about oh, what? So the knife just didn't hit any bone whatsoever. That's got to be fake or some shit. Random something that again is so out of bounds and out of reality that makes no fucking sense and sent the dad over to the edge. I think it's also this idea of how much internalized misogyny do you have that you literally see a video of him killing her and you're like, but did he do it?
Well, I mean, that's the same
what
as
is
everyone who's like, okay, so it's a show about a boy who was being bullied and killed her. And you're like,
no.
Oh my God, how did you miss the point again?
The entire point.
That, which, I mean, props, because again, the creators fucking crushed it. Okay.
I will say, so if you were to guess, 654 people found their review helpful.
Oh my God.
Awful. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down to this one. I thought it would turn out much better than it actually is with the cast, but it's too slow and shallow to keep your interest. Apart from the intense mom and dad relationship, there's not much we learn about the character of the young boy who's accused of murdering a girl from his school. Whoa. I can tell you one thing, though. I wouldn't be a teacher in today's school for a king's ransom. What the fuck? If this is what it's like, then there's no hope in sight for the current student generation. The entire system has got them mollycoddled, from the way the police handle them with kid gloves, to the way they are allowed to almost unlimited freedom in the classrooms, mouthing off the teachers, cell phones access at any time, and virtually total disrespect for authority. I think, okay, so you say that it's a shallow show, which again, you miss the entire point, which is the reasons why these children are disrespectful to the adults, which are female teachers, is because they don't have any respect.
Well, they have male teachers as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. There was a male teacher in there, huh? Mm-hmm. My bad. But yeah, there's a disrespect to them because they're not like the perfect man, and or they're just a woman. Like,
I don't know if it's that shallow. I think it's that like it shows how like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think that it highlights how like we cannot control like children.
Yeah.
We've never been able to.
Totally.
That's why like they would beat children because they thought that was the best like idea is like, okay, we want to control them.
Yeah. Take them back to the good old days. Now they're mollycoddled.
Yeah. This highlights the fact that their kids, outbursts happen.
Yeah.
That not every one of them is crazy. You had a couple in each classroom, but that's also accurate to what it's like. And that like the young girl that's best friends with Katie, that when she is like talking to the counselor, like the counselor is doing everything she can, but the emotions are too big. And so I think it shows like the, like, you know, in a kind of dramatic way, as, you know, dramas do, the extent of what it's like to be a teenager, and that like everything in that world feels chaotic. Everything there feels scary and big, and like that teachers are like, I don't know how to handle this, because again, they aren't supposed to be the whole fucking solution. It is supposed to be community and teachers and the parents
and the family. Yep.
And like, yeah, and all of your extended family. It's supposed to be everyone. And it really highlights like the isolation that teachers have in trying to corral these kids. And again, having overcrowding in schools. Like it shows all of these areas with that like exaggeration of like, yeah, it's just insanity. And are some schools like that? Yes. Are all schools like that? No. But it does show that like issue of, hey, like, I don't know what you're expecting the cops to do if you're saying they're like...
Yeah, what did you
like,
want them to do?
Talking to them with their kid gloves on.
Shit.
Because, like, what did you want them to come in and show the video? Like,
listen, this is not an American program. They're not going to shoot anyone.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But in that sense of, like, it just shows the desperation of these adults that are trying to help children. And that, yes, they have, like, the teacher who kind of just moseys on in whenever he wants, that, like, he's kind of over it. Because, again... not all teachers are fucking great.
Yeah.
But the ones that are, and the ones that aren't. And that exists in every area of life. But it is, once again, to me, this highlights the idea that, like, they have this particular vision of what a teacher looks like and what students look like. And that is it, instead of the reality of, like, yeah, dude, we had fucking crazy kids in our class, too, that wouldn't shut the fuck up.
Yep.
Like... and the teachers would get frustrated.
Absolutely. No, I like that. I like that point of view. Again, the idea that this one person is supposed to be the solution and that like things run smoothly is just, I mean, again, nonsense.
Which I just think is that like societal idea that they're like, where are the teachers at? What are teachers doing? It's like, why are they raising your fucking kids?
Oh, 100%. Like they're already underpaid. Don't worry about like a king's ransom, I think is what he said, when that is literally the opposite of what they're getting. He goes on to say, it's enough to change the entire philosophy of the right to an education of the possibility of saying, give it to the ones who deserve it, and then educate the others to be able to read and write, and that's it. What the fuck?
Wow.
Ooh, there's a lot of gross stuff happening. 86 people found this helpful. Someone else said, really, all that hype. I get the acting is good. I couldn't care less about the editing. Just look at old episodes of The Bill and you might find it suddenly underwhelming. It's very reminiscent of that show. I haven't seen The Bill, have you?
No.
Okay. Yes, I can enjoy slow things. Yes, I can concentrate without looking at my phone every 5 minutes. To me, this is just like an episode of Law and Order or NYPD Blue, except it's stretched for over four very dull episodes. Yawn. I don't know how these people thought it was dull. I was captivated
Well, I think
the
that,
entire time.
again, it's the lack of emotional intelligence, like you said. It's the lack of being able to see the nuances of, like, hey, this is, like, what they're saying. Like, to go back to what I was, like, saying about you earlier being like, this is what the creators want you to see, is that it is that sense of, oh, this is telling a larger story. But if you want this to be a Law and Order episode of, okay, we know that, like, he's killed her, how are they going to catch him? Like, if that's how you went in, then yeah, this would suck.
Yep.
If you wanted this to be a drama around our adolescence, how they are suffering in this current environment, then that's what this is. I think it's just a Rorschach test of, like, how culturally aware you are what you want when you watch it.
That's good. Yeah, it is a test. At that point, yeah, how you felt about this show tells me a lot about you as a person. I don't know. Let me get into this. Don't get me started on the incel thing. That seems like quite the trope to base this story on, and it falls flat as a pancake. Is Andrew Tate, who is referenced, even an incel? I can't stand the guy, but I don't think he is. Maybe some good research before writing would have been good? ? Same with some of the legal stuff. I'm no expert about UK law, but I have worked with young people in similar situations, and it seems like the show just made up as it goes along. I can't imagine the legal processes shown in the drama is even close to real life. Well, again, that is you're looking at the wrong thing.
Give me 1 second.
Yes.
I'm sorry. You're going to tell the creators that they need to do research
when you
on Andrew Tate being an incel or not, but you're going to say that you don't understand the legal system in England, but then be like, this can't be accurate. Maybe perhaps before calling someone out for doing lack of research, you can possibly do some research.
Right. If it's that easy.
As for Andrew Tate being an incel, it's easy to call him an incel just because he is the head of incels. So that is the same way that we will say that the current president of the United States is MAGA. Now, does he actually fall into the red cap, like working class, like understanding any of like what is actually happening in red states? No, he fucking doesn't. He was born with a fucking spoon in his mouth, inherited a ton of money, and was given opportunities and was given more money than a lot of people that voted for him and that agree with him will ever make in their fucking lives. So no, he is not technically that, in the sense that like he cannot actually relate to his constituents. The same way that Andrew Tate is not technically an incel in the fact that he is not involuntarily celibate, but he does promote that. So like any other cult leader who does not come from the same background or suffer the same affinities, although he is bald, and I know that's like a big thing in their world. It's lost on me why we follow these people that we say they hate bald people, but then they're bald.
He's supposed to be like peak masculine energy, and he's bald and
So
fucking horrible
yes,
person.
he would still be considered an incel because that is his group of people that he's decided to be the leader of, and that these young men who have like suffered at his hands self-identify as incels, and he goes along with that. So like that whole, oh no, he's not technically an incel. Well, then is the president of the US technically MAGA?
Yeah.
No, he's fucking not. Is any of the cabinet members who were the richest fucking cabinet members?
Yeah. I also find it insulting that it's like, oh, well, don't get me started on the incel thing. What the fuck? Shut the fuck up. It's annoying because it's like, clearly, again, when he says it falls flat as a pancake, so you really did not get anything out of it because you chose not to.
Well, I don't think they're choosing not to.
Oh, you think it's an involuntary thing?
Like having a lack of awareness in the world. Because if you were just stuck on the fact that Andrew Tate's not technically involuntarily celibate, then you're not capable of seeing like what he actually is doing.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't think that they're like choosing not to. I think that they just lack like an understanding of it.
Yeah.
And like maybe you could say that's a choice. They're not educating themselves because I mean they didn't educate themselves on the legal system. They decided
but they're
to call
gonna
out.
yeah, they're still gonna come for
Which
the creators
I'm just
of
gonna
that.
add right now. The police station in that show, I had to like Google where it was filmed and stuff because the police station there looked just like my dad's office in Manchester, and I was like, I paused it multiple times to be like, you guys, this seriously, like, I remember playing with a coffee machine like this. Like, it was crazy. Mm-hmm. So I thought the person that did the sets for the police station had obviously done some research up in Northern England. So props to them.
I feel like that's extensive research, honestly. Like, but whatever, dude. Mm-hmm. Come for them. I'm going to go with one last one. This one's kind of, this one's a big one. Pretty boring series to follow, in all honesty. I found it rather unrealistic, given the fact that they made the murder about a boy's hatred for women/girls. I can see that being more or less realistic if it would have been a more developed male, given the fact that a lot of social issues aren't fully understood at such a young age.
Once again, I will state that the creator of this thought of this show because he had watched multiple stabbings that had happened over the series of months done by young men ages 12 to 13.
Young, dude.
So, again, you don't read the news.
Yeah. Well, there's a moment too. You didn't do the research on who you're talking about.
You might be American, which is why the idea of a young boy stabbing a young girl is lost on you because you only know of school shootings.
Right, but
which is the American version of that.
If he came in with a fucking gun, then you'd be like,
yeah,
oh yeah,
that
makes sense.
That's relatable.
Jesus Christ, dude. So awful. As a woman of color, I didn't understand how my race and gender played a pivotal role in the treatment I received until I started to experience more of life and get older. I find the actions in which children and teens display are learned, unfortunately, through parents or peers. That was a whole sentence, I guess. Once you come into an age of understanding, you make more informed decisions. Naturally, the series is trying to hone in on the detrimental effects of certain communities and individuals like Andrew Tate. But I find that many of the individuals that pander to such poor examples of humans are more developed teens or disappointed in one's self, like males. Okay, whatever. It's inner work that needs to be done. These are males that do not have positive examples of males in their lives. In many cases are raised in broken homes, and this is not an excuse to the behavior of the character, obviously privileged male, but to get an insight on the reality of a society that doesn't emphasize heavy family relationships, which is imperative to a child's development. That was a lot. Really quick, I think that bringing up that you're a woman of color, as another woman of color, not understanding how your race and gender plays a pivotal role in the treatment is one thing, but that doesn't mean that your body necessarily forgets it. It's also something that I fail to see the point that she is trying to make, because just because you didn't realize that your race had a huge deal with the treatment of that you were getting doesn't really match what you're saying. It doesn't mean that like the light bulb only turns on when you're a teenager. That's not actually the experience for a lot of people. A lot of people feel racism when they're young. And a lot of people, and I'm sorry if that wasn't your experience, but to say that this is an umbrella thing, well, it only happens for teenagers.
Yeah.
Is a bit much. I don't think that's...
Especially because, again, we have so many examples throughout, like, history where they knew at a very young age that their race was a pivotal part of their existence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as far as informed decisions, I still don't understand what the point is that they're trying to make.
I think that they're saying that he couldn't have, like... Because of his age, he couldn't have made the decision to, like, kill someone. But what I do think about, like, what I'm assuming that's what they're saying. If somebody, like, understands that better, please, like, leave a comment, because I would like to understand it better as well. But if that's the case, that kind of goes into the point of, like, the reason why there is a spike in young men on violence against young girls is because they are not capable of making full cognitive decisions. Yeah. So they are just reacting in that moment.
Right.
So, like, it's why fights happen more with, like, young adults and teenagers than it does with, or in like adolescence than it does typically as they get older. And it's because then their brain is further developed. But to say that because I think he's 12 in the show.
Yeah, he's young. He's 12. I think.
So to say that like he's not capable of that because of his age, that he doesn't understand it, like that's kind of the point, is that he doesn't understand what he's doing. So the scene in which
the therapist asks.
Yeah, well, like when he keeps saying that he's like, I didn't do it, it's because like there's a part of him he said I did nothing wrong.
Yeah, he didn't say he didn't do it. He just says he did nothing wrong.
Because he cannot fathom what has happened. And like, as somebody who studies psychology and like loves that like particular age range of psychology, like adolescence is something that like I very much enjoy because of that, because of this like overdevelopment of reaction and the underdevelopment of cognitive abilities. That like that in and of itself is a powder keg, which is also why these like, you know what, we'll stick with the advertisement method.
Totally.
We knew that kids weren't gonna smoke cigarettes, but if we got them thinking they were cool and we targeted kids that would eventually grow the fuck up and buy cigarettes, we knew that it would be a great way to sell more cigarettes. That's the same thing that's happening in the manosphere.
Yep.
It's the idea, the same way that like they target young girls who do not have the funds to buy beauty products. They target them with ads on social media because that way, the moment you can buy those products, you've already got it set in your fucking brain.
Oh, 100%.
And that's the thing, is that like these like manosphere men like Andrew Tate are not just advertising and marketing themselves towards older teenagers. No, they are trying to cover as much ground as humanly possible, because the younger you can advertise to, the better your company will be, because you are investing in future clients.
Yeah.
And like, I think that it's a really, honestly, like kind of adorably naive way to look at the world, which is, I didn't realize that my race played a factor in it. And again, multiracial individual here. I did not necessarily understand it when I was little, but I was 11 years old when the principal called me a cracker to my face. And I was very much hit with the fact that I like that it makes you laugh every time with racism. And also understanding what I did not know at that point was white privilege.
Dude, calling an 11-year-old cracker is crazy.
Because I got assaulted by a boy in my class, and my school is predominantly Black, and I I got sent to the principal's office for being assaulted. And the principal called me a cracker and said, What do you want me to do about it, cracker?
Was it the pencil?
No, it wasn't the time I got stabbed by a pencil. No, he punched me.
Oh, God, that's awful.
Horrible. So he punched me in the gut.
Yep.
And
then you got sent to the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
as one
and
does.
I explained the situation to her, and she called me a cracker. And I knew that was because of my race, and I was 11. And so, like... I don't think it's as simple as being like, hey, like, perhaps you didn't know that people treated you differently because of your race.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that, like, it...
That again, no one does.
Right? And I think the point she's trying to make is that it's all unrealistic. But again, so you didn't do your research. This has been happening.
Yes.
So...
Yeah, this is based off of, like, they specifically stated, this is not based off of one event.
Yeah.
It's based off of a series of events that have happened.
Yeah. So, and I think her other paragraph of saying that, this is men not having healthy relationships with other men or positive male examples. I think that's all valid for sure.
Well, I mean, that's why they lean into like going online to find some sort of like male example.
Yes. And then she follows it up with, as someone in the education sector, I find that despite the circumstances of poor role models in one's life, there should be some classes implemented in the education sector that allow room for boys to be guided in a positive manner by positive male role models. Some sort of male ethics class. Same for women, an environment that is led by women and provides guidance and support. Oftentimes it's broken people displaying behaviors and repeating behaviors, whether that is making poor selections in who they surround themselves with or in how they approach the world. And most importantly, we must teach humans men and women alike, that their worth is not contingent on finding or having women or men interested in you, or having to find the one. Life is more than that. So why did you give it 1 star, girl?
I think
I'm
the
confused.
end of it, because she was bored by it. I think the end of that is great. That yes, we should have that. But again, I think that should also exist within, like, culturally.
Yeah.
Within our homes as well, though. Mm-hmm. But also, you know, in environments in which, like, children can just communicate to other children, not in a gendered way. I don't think that it should be, hey, this is a specific, like, men's ethics class, women's ethics class. Yeah. But that we can also have a class of, like, no, everyone has emotions. Everyone feels things. This is what this is like. Like, I had that gripe of sex education when I was in middle school, where I'm like, why the fuck are we separated?
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't be separated. If everyone here is going to eventually have sex, not everyone, because some people are asexual. Yeah. But, like, or now some people are involuntary celibate. Which is the dumbest fucking statement ever,
which you're
by
not.
the way.
You're not involuntarily celibate. You just think that, like, you are entitled to having sex with women, you fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
God.
Also, the idea of, like, involuntarily, like, celibate when, like, you just haven't had sex before. It's okay. Calm down.
That's a totally fine. Yeah. I'm involuntarily a skydiving virgin. Like, what the fuck does that even fucking mean, dude?
Like I've just not done that. That's fine.
Yeah, that's okay. Especially, like, when we're talking about this age range of younger boys, there's a scene where the therapist asks him, like, these questions of, like, oh, do you think it's appropriate for people of your age to be sexually active? And he's like, can you even ask that question? And she's just like, I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. And there's a point where he blows up on the therapist. And, you know, it's hilarious. I turned to you, too. I was like, oh, my God, I just forgot. I like, when that scene happened, I'm like, oh, dude, this kid is going to hurt somebody. This kid is going to, like, hit women. He is not
forgetting
okay.
that was the whole plot.
And then remembering, I was like, oh, shit, no, he's already killed someone, brother. Like, fucking insane. But, you know, he is young. He's 12. And he's saying, yes, I do think that, like, you know, well, I'm better than most men because most men would have touched her afterwards. I could have touched anywhere on her body after it all happened, but I didn't. And see, I'm one of the good ones.
Yeah, he said, I'm one of the good ones.
And which is, again,
that, like, low bar. Like I said, like, your generation's been taught that bar is just, oh, he sees me as a human being. And I'm like, no. You want someone who's, like, developed in themselves as a, like, to be a mutual partner, not to be like, hey, he doesn't see me as just a piece of ass.
Totally.
Great. He's a wonderful one.
Yeah.
He wouldn't touch me if he fucking murdered me. He's lovely. No.
That's, gross.
Like...
But yeah, that was my last review that I wanted to talk about. I guess we ended up on somewhat of a good note. Again, she was just bored, but then the rest of what she was saying was, like, pretty good.
Yeah.
So, why'd you leave 1 star? You couldn't have done 3.
I also just...
What happened there?
I guess I personally... Don't get me wrong. I love 1 stars because I like to, like, you know,
I love
break
a
them
1 star
down.
review.
But I also just don't understand the, like, leaving, like, a 1 star review. Like, I've watched tons of shows and movies that I don't necessarily enjoy. But I don't think to, like, I understand more at a restaurant, like, if you got sick or if, like, you've had bad legal, like, things like that.
The only 1 stars I've left on was my dentist who fucked up my teeth, like, so bad. I had to get, like, a root canal. It was a whole fucking thing. They didn't numb me up. I could feel them drilling holes in my teeth. Anyways, that 1 star review. And then I left another 1 star review on someone who openly did a Hitler salute on their business page.
But again, that's warning people of services.
Yes.
Not being like,
I was like, this is not a safe space for y'all.
This
just so
show
you know.
Is crap.
Like, openly doing a Nazi salute. And then the third bad review I left was on a church that decided to protest against a drag queen reading. And they scared a bunch. They had to, like, lock down the facility and scared the crap out of these children and parents because they were being loud and trying to get into the fucking doors, like banging on doors and shit. So I left a 1 star review on them. But I can't imagine doing that on shows.
Yeah.
Or, like, I think, weird thing. Too, like, I mean, fuck, dude, if you just watched through the whole show, that's kind of your bad.
I think that's also what's great to me is it's like, look, I didn't like the new Gladiator. I did not enjoy it. I'm not about to leave a 1 star review. I'll just be like, that was not it.
It was not. And it did what these people were actually complaining about, which was edging. It was just edging me throughout. Dude, I fucking was like, oh, it's picking up, great. And then it would get so fucking boring again.
But that being said, I'm really glad that people leave 1-star reviews because it is really fun reading.
It does make me laugh. I love a good 1-star review. So keep doing that. Let us know what you guys thought about Adolescence. I'm assuming since we've made it this far that you've already watched it, but if not, no worries. Go and watch it. It's great.
Yeah, if not, I didn't give you a plot review of it because, that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah, you can get that anywhere, honestly. It's everywhere on the internet.
There is a lot of good, psychological breakdowns, which is why we didn't necessarily go into, the actual breakdown of the show.
Yeah.
On, a psychology side. Because we are not professionals. And also because when she said that she wanted to leave 1-star review or read 1-star reviews, I was like, hell yeah, that's a fucking
that's
super
a good episode.
fun thing. Yeah.
And it's funny, too.
Yeah.
Some of them are really fucking funny. All right, well.
Yep. So on that note, what was your win for the week?
Win for the week? Oh, boy. I'm blanking. Going to the art studio yesterday.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I did not want to go. We were both not wanting to go. You definitely did not want to go.
No.
But I forced you into
Life is rough right now.
Yes. And
I don't recommend menopause.
We ended up having a good time. Maybe we could try those weird fruits after this.
Yeah.
But what was your win for the week?
My win for the week was us getting this podcast. I know that's my win a lot, but really, I'm just not feeling like a human being.
Yeah.
At all. Because life is hard right now.
Life sucks. It's hard setting up shop and not only setting up a new business into a different country that you know nothing fucking about and have to learn from square one, but also being a human being in a new country where you know nothing about and you have to start from square fucking one. Things are just different here. Curtains are different here. It's so weird. Anyways.
Yeah, everything is different. So construction stuff is a lot different. So that in and of itself is making everything be a little bit harder and a little bit slower, but not dying. That's a win. And doing this episode and getting to enjoy people's 1-star reviews.
Yep.
So
that's a win.
On apparently a very boring show that I fucking loved.
I was not bored at all throughout that show. So wow. Y'all
Which I'm not surprised because you love Twilight.
I love Twilight.
Caboose and I want to die during Twilight.
I love Twilight. But also trying to make sure that my brain doesn't turn into Cocomelon mush. So
yeah. So you've been working on crossword puzzles.
I have been working on crossword puzzles. It's really good. I've noticed too. It's really good to stew on a problem and not immediately give up. It lengthens your frustration time frame.
Tolerance.
If that makes sense. Yeah, your tolerance. There we go. That's the word that I'm looking for.
That's why I like math equations.
Yeah.
And having to do them in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to try to fight Alzheimer's through just that part of our brain.
Yep.
Obviously, lots of other ways, and you can't really control it. But at least we can try to make her as strong as possible.
Exactly.
So on that note, we will see you guys back next week where we will talk about, I don't know yet, because that's next week's problem.
We'll figure it out.
But comment, subscribe, all the shit that we're supposed to tell you to do to boost the whatever. You're here and we love you. And thank you for hanging out with us. Bye.